Welcome to Politics Nation. Tonight's lead, crisis points. We're looking at a rocky July 4th week ahead for the nation and for President Trump, whose fragile peace deal with Iran is hanging by a thread as Tehran and the U.S. trade retaliatory strikes over the Strait of Hormuz this weekend. Back in Washington, every branch of our government is facing stress tests, with a handful of potentially massive Supreme Court decisions slated to be released this week. On Capitol Hill, a breakthrough bipartisan housing bill is languishing as Trump continues to push his politically toxic voter suppression bill ahead of midterms. And his America 250 celebrations are off to a slow start with sparse attendance and even less fanfare. And the nation's birthday is just a few days away. Joining me now is Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Democrat of Massachusetts. We begin tonight with this evening's breaking news out of Iran, with a Pakistani official telling MSNOW that peace talks between the U.S. and Iran are paused following the new rounds of strikes between the two sides. But a senior Trump administration official has claimed that nothing has been canceled and the technical talks are on track as planned. Still, Iran hasn't, says it hit U.S. military bases in the Gulf today. And President Trump's threatening to abandon peace talks and use military force to, quote, complete the job in Iran. His UN ambassador said today that the president will not stand by while Iran attacks shippings in the Strait of Hormuz without a response. Congresswoman, are we back to square one?
Well, we shouldn't be in this position in the first place, Rev. You know, again, Donald Trump is someone who ran saying that he was going to be a peace president, and we've seen no evidence of this. This war with Iran is a war of choice. Trump put our global security at risk. He destabilized the region with no clear goals as to what was to be accomplished. He's renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War. He's being a partner in Netanyahu's barbaric warfare and putting innocent lives at risk and U.S. troops, and moreover, burdening people here at home with high costs across the board from gas to groceries. So this is not the behaviors of a peacetime president. And he ran saying that he was going to tackle affordability, and he's attacking anything and everyone but affordability. And this ceasefire that they entered into 2 weeks ago is very fragile. And for Donald Trump to be on social media talking about annihilating people. Again, this is someone who ran saying that he was going to be a peacetime president, and he initiated this Operation Epic Fury without any rationale, without any strategic exit plan. And this war is completely unauthorized. And even within his own Republican caucus in the House, they don't support this war. And members in the Senate that voted for the War Powers Resolution, he, bullied them and they retracted. And so just going to continue to appeal to every person of conscience, to our colleagues across the aisle, focus more on doing the job you were sent to do. So many of them are afraid of, they're just trying to keep their job rather than do their job. And this is just, we need to de-escalate the region, and we need just and lasting peace.
Now, you, Congresswoman, you helped write parts of the bipartisan housing bill that Trump is holding hostage over his unpopular voter suppression bill, the so-called Save America Act. Speaker Johnson says he'll send the bill to the president tomorrow and, quote, it will become law. No word on whether Trump will sign it or not. As someone who shaped this bill to address inequity in the housing market, specifically communities of color, what's being withheld from the American people right now because of the president's petulance?
Yeah, the president's petulance, indeed. And he's so disconnected from what the American people want. They don't want never ending wars, and they want housing. They don't want ballrooms. Seniors need housing. Students need housing. Veterans need housing. Young professionals need housing. Young families need housing. This road to housing bill, and shout out to my Senator Elizabeth Warren and to Ranking Member Maxine Waters. I have 4 bills in this road to housing, a comprehensive piece of legislation. My 4 bills would address racial bias in housing appraisals and those evaluations, expand opportunities for affordable housing, help families to achieve financial stability, and also greater oversight of corporate landlords. And writ large within this road to housing, it's about greater protections for our renters while expanding opportunities to home ownership. This is, housing, Rev, is not just shelter. This is about a safety, refuge, a place to rest, a place to plan, a place to dream. And instead of us being on a road to housing, the occupant of the Oval Office would rather we be on a road to voter suppression, would rather the American people be on a road to greater struggle. Housing is a transcendent issue, suburban, urban, rural. But again, he is disconnected from what the American people want. They want us to address affordability issues, and they don't want never-ending wars. Yeah. This guy was a slumlord and a crappy builder. He has an opportunity to redeem himself and sign this bill into law. So I hope Mike Johnson will make good on his pledge, that he will send this to the president, and that the president will sign this piece of legislation into law.
Now, staying with the SAVE Act, it's just one of the tactics from a legislative angle that Trump and his administration has been pushing to control our upcoming midterm elections. He's also been bombarding state election officials with demands for voter data and issuing executive orders to restrict mail-in ballots in states that don't turn over that data. Fortunately, he's been mostly losing in court over these maneuvers, but we've also seen federal agents attempting to seize ballots in states like Georgia and Wisconsin, which we might expect to expand with the midterm clock running out. And Trump loyalist Bill Plute now installed as acting DNI head. How should Democrats be preparing for this?
Well, again, I hope that this road to housing legislation, which I have 4 bills in, will be signed into law so that we are not on a path to voter suppression. The SAVE Act, allegedly, it's about saving America. I think, building more housing would save America. But this administration is always a solution in search of a problem. It is already illegal for undocumented people to participate in our elections. All this bill would do is make it more onerous and create greater barriers to the ballot box. And as you said, everything always comes back to that for this administration. They know that their agenda is unpopular. They know that they haven't kept one promise to the American people. And the only way they can run is to rig the elections, either with racial gerrymandering of districts, or with passing things like the SAVE Act, which would disenfranchise, Rev, women voters, rural voters, military voters, because it would say that a real ID and a state ID are not sufficient forms of identification to vote. Instead, you would need a passport or a birth certificate. And so this stands to disenfranchise millions of voters. And it's one more step, Rev, in their anti-freedom agenda. An administration that wants to control what you do with your bodies, what books you read, degrade free speech, attack the free press, and deny you access to the ballot, looking to disenfranchise you and to silence your voice. It is an anti-freedom agenda, ironic against the backdrop as we head into this America 250.
Now, one of the main reasons we have wanted you on the show tonight is you co-chair the Haiti Caucus, which is scrambling to respond after last week's Supreme Court's decision ending temporary protected status for more than 350,000 Haitian migrants. Tonight, even some Republicans are calling for temporary legal protections for these migrants as experts warn of an even larger humanitarian crisis if they're deported to Haiti, already struggling with one of the worst in the world. Take a listen to Mike DeWine, Republican governor of Ohio, where thousands of Haitian migrants have settled and now face removal.
Well, I think it's a mistake for a number of reasons. You cannot fly into Port-au-Prince. The reason they can't go in there is because these gang leaders who control a good part of Haiti today shoot at the planes when they come in. The other point is it is not in the United States' interest, certainly not in Ohio's interest, to have people who are working every single day, who are supporting a family, who are buying houses, fixing up old houses, starting businesses, and then put deep roots in this country and really are contributing, and yank them out.
Now, of course, leading up to this moment are years of racist rhetoric from the president, the vice president, and their supporters about Haiti and Haitian people. Your reaction, Congresswoman?
Well, I'm not surprised by Governor DeWine's comments out of Ohio. It is his comments and many of my Ohio colleagues that I was able to appeal to pass our discharge petition in April with 224 votes, 10 Republicans and 1 independent, to extend temporary protective status for the 360,000 Haitian neighbors that call this country home. Their lives are not temporary. Their families are not temporary, and their futures should not be temporary. They make incredible contributions to our healthcare economy, to our care economy, to our hospitality industry, to our construction industry. Rev, my office is being inundated with calls because I represent the 3rd largest Haitian diaspora in the country. I co-chair the House Haiti Caucus. I led the discharge petition that passed the House. And we have parents seeking counsel for how to pursue guardianship for their children who were born here in case they are just disappeared from society and deported. Trump's own State Department, Rev, said Haiti is not a safe place to visit. So how could you then send back? It's just a death sentence. 360,000 of our Haitian neighbors back to what is a beautiful country, but a very destabilized country in the wake of political assassinations of their president, of natural disasters consecutively, and rampant gang violence, and might I add, contributed to by the trafficking of U.S. guns. So, look, this is a devastating comma, but it is not a finite period, Rev. We're still fighting. I'm still pushing for the Senate to bring my bill to the floor there that is led by Senator Markey and Senator Blunt Rochester. We're still waiting on a ruling on the lower courts, and we're still demanding this administration do the right thing by the 1.3 million TPS holders that live in this country. But in this specific fight for our Haitian and Syrian neighbors impacted by this lawless ruling by the Supreme Court, all they had to do was uphold the law. But this will have devastating implications on families and on our economy and workforce.
All right. Thank you, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Let's continue our conversation with Democratic Congresswoman from Washington, Marilyn Strickland. Marilyn Strickland is a Congresswoman. I wanted to return to the war in Iran. American troops are once again in harm's way in Iran. Revolutionary Guard says it is targeting the U.S. bases in retaliation for American strikes. The situation is once again escalating, even after both branches of Congress passed war power resolutions, and the president had to personally intervene to get Republican senators to switch their votes. Is this sustainable? How long can this president continue to carry on this conflict without getting real buy-in from the American people and Congress?
Well, at some point, the president is going to have to come up with a diplomatic solution to end this war and help end this war. And I want to point something out here. When a president typically decides to commit American troops to a war, there is a very somber primetime address to the American people. The case is made to Congress. He's usurped our authority, and they make the case for why this should happen. The Trump administration has refused to do any of this. No strategy, no exit plan, and really no improvement when it comes to the Mideast. They're more destabilized now. On top of that, it has cost about $150 billion, and the Pentagon has spent $30 billion alone. But here's the part of this I think it's really important for us to understand. It will cost the average American family $1,000 this year because of this war. The cost of energy, the cost of goods, everything is a complete disaster.
Now, while we're at war, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth continues what sure looks like a politically motivated reorganization of the Pentagon. Women and troops of color have had their promotions blocked, and in the past week, chaplains were stripped of their officer rank insignias just days after the department also cut the number of recognized religions from more than 200 to just 31. Does this kind of social experimentation make sense while we're in the middle of a major conflict?
It makes absolutely no sense, Rev. And, I still remember the day when Pete Hegseth finally came to the House Armed Services Committee. And one of the first things he said was, DEI is dead. With a force where over 40% of those who are enlisted are people of color. He has come after promotions. He has come after people to fire them, and he claims this is a merit-based system. But I will tell you, the only requirement that Pete Hegseth has for his generals and people serving is that they are blindly loyal to Trump. It is a poor excuse of someone in this position. And ironically, he talks about people not being qualified because he says that's what DEI is about. He is the ultimate DEI hire. Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina actually said he regrets casting the vote in the Senate to confirm Pete Hegseth. He's unfit, he's unqualified, and he is compromising national and global security.
Now, you mentioned earlier a prominent Wall Street economist from the ratings company Moody's estimated last week that the Iran war has already cost each U.S. family roughly $1,000, and that number is only growing as we speak. Are the affordability issues and the war now linked in the lives of Americans?
Absolutely, Reverend. And, we often talk about connecting the dots because we think this war in another part of the world has nothing to do with the cost of living. And you know this, when we are talking to people in the district across the country, they talk about affordability. But if the Strait of Hormuz is closed and the president keeps saying there's a peace deal, no, there's not. There's a peace deal. The cost of energy, the cost of food, the cost of goods, all those things are affected because of this war. So you can definitely connect the dots. And I think about what the American people care about right now. People just want to have their basic needs met. Housing, stable jobs, good schools, safe neighborhoods, healthcare that they can afford, retiring with dignity, and collecting the Social Security they've been paying into. And more importantly, Rev, they just want to live their lives in peace. People want to love their families, take care of each other, and just live what we call the American promise.
Now, before you go, I want to ask you about the World Cup and the unusual way it has been bringing together communities in your state. On Friday, Seattle hosted a match between Egypt and Iran on the opening day of the city's Pride Month celebration. There was some initial controversy when the two teams hailing from countries that criminalize homosexuality asked that FIFA avoid displays of LGBTQ support. Many fans ignored those requests and turned the event into a rainbow-tinted pride match. Nevertheless, the game went off without incident. What can an event like this teach us as we push to increase acceptance of LGBTQ people worldwide?
So generally speaking, Seattle and the metropolitan Seattle-Tacoma area, we have always been at the forefront of LGBTQ rights. And Pride is celebrated in Seattle in June, and that would happen with or without the World Cup. So we were happy to host the World Cup here, but that was not going to change our celebration of Pride. And I remind folks that, look, people have the right to express themselves. This is why we have the First Amendment in this country. Overall, people had a really, really nice time. And it's really delightful, Rev, to watch across the entire United States. people coming to visit the US for the first time, being welcomed with open arms, enjoying the food, the culture, the history. And so I tell folks that watching the World Cup really reminds us that we all have shared humanity. And it's amazing to be proud of this country because there's a lot to be proud of right now, despite our challenges. So I'm just hoping that through the World Cup, we can all get to know each other, learn about each other, and just really show the whole world through the teams who are through the teams who've made it to the round of 32. Diversity is our strength. It's a good thing. It makes the world better.
All right. Thank you, Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland of the state of Washington. Coming up, a new book is going behind the scenes at the White House. The author joins us next.
You ever play Tierra Rojada?
Welcome back to Politics Nation on MSNOW. A new book that takes us behind the scenes at the Trump White House has the political world buzzing and the president fuming. Regime Change by journalists Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan examine what the writers calls Trump's imperial second term. Joining me now is Maggie Haberman, co-author of the book and White House correspondent for the New York Times. Thank you for being with us tonight. Maggie, the president gave his review of your book last night at around 12:30 a.m. this morning, really, on Truth Social. He says your book is, quote, fake news, and that you are a third-rate writer who makes first-rate income because of him. He also disputes the audio tapes you and Jonathan Swan have cited, claiming you do not have them. You have covered Trump for many years, so this reaction is probably not surprising to you. But what's your response?
First of all, Rev, thanks for having me. It's great to be on, number one. Number two, working backwards, we actually haven't commented on tapes one way or the other. It was Vice President Vance who said to Megyn Kelly that some of the scenes we described made him worry that there were tapes. And I think there was an Axios report as well about concerns about that, but we don't discuss sourcing. In terms of him attacking me, he's been attacking me for many, many years. He's attacked Jonathan as well, and we're used to it. It doesn't affect the way we do our jobs one way or the other. But I do hope people will continue to buy the book, which they are.
We don't know if Trump's aide, Natalie Harp, had a role in drafting last night's presidential post, but she figures prominently in your book. According to your reporting, Harp's near-constant presence at the president's side and her fawning notes to him have alarmed other members of the White House team, who sometimes derisively refer to her as the human printer. What can you tell us about Harp and the bubble that has developed around this president in his second term? Who is really around him when he's making decisions about war, peace, and the future of our nation?
One of the things that we learned in the course of our reporting, and as we started trying to think of this book and what period of time it would focus on, and we decided it would be the first 14 months of this term, which have had a dramatic sea change on how Americans see the presidency and how the rest of the world sees the U.S. presidency, was who was around the president. And it's this small group of about a half a dozen aides. But what's remarkable is that Natalie Harp is in so many meetings, more meetings than most other people. She doesn't talk through most of them. She sits on the side of a wall in the Oval Office near the door that leads out to the colonnade and to the Rose Garden. And she is ever present. He likes having her around. She supplies him with a series of pieces of positive news. This was a trend that started when she was working for him at Mar-a-Lago in 2022 and has continued. And as you say, there are people around him who refer to her as the human printer because she carries this portable printer, or did, along with her as they were traveling on the road. She is a gatekeeper of information, both to him and from him, in what is a very, very tightly sealed information bubble around him.
Now, Trump's entire political career has had a circus-like quality to it with colorful side characters. But your book describes the second term as something new. Trump has become more willing to push the limits of his power and more obsessed with becoming a great man of history. Is this why we're seeing him starting wars and trying to build monuments to himself like the ballroom, even when the polling is showing these things are deeply unpopular with the American people?
One of the things we found in our reporting for the book was just how less focused and responsive to domestic politics President Trump is this time. It's not a binary. It's not that he isn't at all. It's not that he's, it's not that he would be happy if Republicans lost the midterms per se, but he just has not been focused on it the same way that certainly that his aides would like him to be. And secondly, the way that he was responsive to public polling in term one, or to specific fluctuations in the stock market. He obviously still pays attention to the stock market, but he's been willing to take the country to the brink on a number of fronts in a way that has surprised his aides, surprised some longtime advisors, and he is operating on this gut instinct level in a way that he might have been more inclined to do in, say, year 4 of his presidency, had it not been for the Russia investigation and the fact that he really didn't know Washington. But he has come back so much more emboldened and empowered on a number of fronts, including by a Republican Congress that does not serve as much of a check on him. They barely made a noise about the fact that he took the country to war in Iran without going to talk to Congress. He just didn't consult them. He went into Venezuela and snatched a foreign head of state in the dead of night in his pajamas without consulting Congress. And yes, he is claiming authorities that courts and some lawmakers say he doesn't have in terms of, say, this ballroom, building an arch. It's taking a while for facts on the ground to catch up with what the courts can do to try to slow him down. He wants to make sure that he is not being erased in history, and that is what you're seeing, at least according to our reporting.
Now, you and your co-author, Jonathan Swan, have said this book project, nearly killed you. It's based on more than 1,000 interviews, many with people inside the administration who are alarmed by what's going on. And yet it seems as if we've seen less internal dissent and leaks from the second Trump White House than we did from the first. Do you agree with that assessment? And if the president's popularity continues to slide, could we see that change?
So it's absolutely true that there have been fewer leaks this term. To paraphrase one of our colleagues at the Wall Street Journal, Josh Dawsey, you had to essentially be absent your eyes and ears, absent senses, to not get some story in term one or some piece of information. It's much harder this time because it's a group of people who believe in him, who, even if they don't necessarily like everything he's doing, they like the overall agenda. Even if they don't like his approach on certain things, they want to see him succeed. And many of them got radicalized during those 4 years that he was out of power. Either they were subpoenaed themselves or they were indicted themselves along with him in certain cases. Many of them disagreed with all, if not most, of the court cases that he faced. There were 2 assassination attempts. They have come to see him as this almost, mystical figure who can hear frequencies that they can't, that other people can't. And so that has made this a much more harmonious White House. And he also trusted his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, for a long time. He also just, according to our reporting and people we talked to, wants to do what he wants to do and wants to do it quickly. And so I think it was inevitable that you were going to see some of this fracturing that you're seeing now. But yes, I think that if the midterms get closer, obviously it's hard to predict, but everything in our reporting suggests it's going to be harder to keep this team together.
Now, finally, we're in the midst of America 250, celebrations, America 250, which Trump has elevated to a central event in his second term in office. So far, it hasn't exactly gone as planned. We've seen the controversy over the renovations to the pool, and the state fair on the National Mall has been lightly attended after many performing artists pulled out. As you report in the book, this did not have to be this way. there were other more inclusive plans for America's 250th birthday that this president intentionally blew up. What does this tell us, and what does it tell you about where we are right now?
So 2 points on that. Number one, I would expect any president who was in office during America's 250th to celebrate. There were obviously plans in place, before Trump got reelected to try to do something of a bipartisan nature to celebrate the 250th American anniversary. But not everybody would do what President Trump has done, which is make much of it about himself. And that is what you have seen people object to. In our book, we have reporting about how there has been this huge effort going back to the beginning of the term last year to take control of the arts, to take control of the story of America that gets told through the Smithsonian Museum and institution complexes, which includes the first National African American Museum, to try to essentially make slavery less of a component, not essentially, to make slavery less of a component. The president has openly complained about a focus on slavery, on Truth Social. And so what you are seeing now is a completely different narrative of what America looks like. I only expect that to continue going forward. I will say, and Jonathan, my co-author, and I talked about this a lot, most times during a midterm cycle in a presidential lame duck term, which is what this is, you can look forward and sort of see where it heads. Yes, the House could flip. Yes, the Senate could flip to Democrats both. It's hard for me to see what oversight and accountability look like with an administration that has routinely ignored norms and which runs the Justice Department. So we'll see.
All right. Thank you to author and journalist Maggie Haberman. The book is called Regime Change: Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. I have mine. Make sure you check it out. Now to our next story. For months, Trump officials and allies have floated the possibility of sending ICE agents to the polls this fall, raising concerns of voter and poll workers' intimidation. On Tuesday, an incident in upstate New York only heightened those worries. A poll watcher in Syracuse says 2 federal agents confronted her while she was working at a voting site, demanding that she take down what they called a threatening social media post. She says they gave her a document saying that if she didn't comply, she could face federal and state prosecution. Now, New York prosecutors are reviewing what happened. Joining me now is the attorney representing the poll worker, Adam Steinbaugh, senior attorney at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. So first, walk us through what happened here and what exactly your client is being accused of.
Well, Reverend, you may recall about 6 months ago, there were several shootings in Minneapolis during the ICE campaign there. The officer there was very quickly identified by the public. Members of the public posted information about him. And this was, as you'll recall, the Trump administration was authorizing agents to remain masked and to avoid identifying themselves, even just through badge numbers in Minneapolis. So a lot of people were upset by this. A lot of people were concerned that we are moving towards a police state where you have anonymous police. And hundreds, if not thousands of people shared information about that officer, including his name, his photos, and his address. None of that is unprotected by the First Amendment. You have the right to post truthful and accurate information about government officials, including law enforcement officers, to criticize them. Unfortunately, in recent days, the Department of Homeland Security has started dispatching officers out to people's homes and to confront people about their protected speech about ICE. Paige Lynn, the person who was a poll worker here, she got a phone call from officers with the Department of Homeland Security informing her that they believed that she had posted something about this officer, and they came to the polling place where she was working, and they provided her this form that's entitled Warning Notice in big letters, and it says, "You may have committed a federal offense." And the rest of this form goes on to say, "We think you may have committed a crime by posting something about an ICE agent. And if you do this again in the future, we are going to take your receipt of this document, this warning, this written warning presented by law enforcement agents from the federal government. We will take this into consideration in making decisions about whether or not to prosecute you." She very rightly said, I don't want to sign this. I do not want to sign this and give it back to you. I need to talk to an attorney. And the agents ultimately left. But she's not alone. Just today, Syracuse.com reported that a journalist in Rochester received a visit to his home from the same agents. And they confronted his wife, saying that this journalist, had sent an email to the director of ICE referring to him or comparing him to Nazis, and ultimately begging the director of ICE to consider his conscience and consider what his conscience will be like in the future, and criticizing him for defending the shooting of Alex Preddy. And the agents provided this same form to his wife. Now, he wasn't in town at the time. His wife pointed out that, hey, he is on vacation in Finland right now. He's going to be back later this week, and he'll give you a call then. They didn't wait for him to give them a call. He flew back into New York City with his 7-year-old daughter and stayed in a hotel that evening. He woke up because a clerk at the front desk of the hotel said that an agent from Homeland Security had visited them trying to look for him. And he already knew about this form. So right now you have law enforcement agents from ICE following people around the country, going to their homes and telling them that their protected speech might be a criminal act.
Now, what does the law say about federal agents at voting locations? Was it legitimate for them to be there if they are supposedly investigating a crime?
In general, my understanding, and I'm a First Amendment lawyer, I'm not an expert on election law. In general, it raises unseemly prospects to send law enforcement agents into any polling location. But at the end of the day, the reason that they were there was about her speech. And I think that is what is critical here.
Yeah, well, let me put you on that, because a spokesman for Homeland Security says your client committed a federal crime by posting the address of an ICE law enforcement officer online. Your client says she did not include his address, and the post references a publicly available report from the Minnesota Star Tribune. Do you have any additional information on what crime federal investigators believe they may have and that may have occurred here?
Well, they're referring to a law that prohibits people from posting certain specific information about federal officials, including social security numbers and, home addresses. But that is only if they were doing that with the intent to threaten someone or to intimidate someone. This is not someone who is threatening a federal agent. This is someone who is calling for a prosecution of that agent for shooting someone. That is not a call to unlawful action or to threaten someone. That is a call for lawful action. It's a call for law enforcement to do something. That's not a crime.
We've seen federal officials try to intimidate poll workers before, most notably the 2 election workers in Georgia who successfully sued Rudy Giuliani for defamation. How real is the concern that what happened to your client could become a dangerous trend as we head into an election season?
Well, I've heard now from a second gentleman who received one of these letters in the course of a week. I don't know how many other people have received these letters. If any of your viewers have received a letter like this, I would be eager to hear from them. But we can look across the pond right now as we are preparing to celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary of our divorce from the British-style approach to speech. And if you look across the pond, if you look across the Atlantic, you have situations where law enforcement officers are going door to door and going to people's homes and confronting them over their social media posts. I don't want that happening here. And that is an early indication that our commitment to freedom of speech may be slipping.
Now, what comes next for this case?
I think it's very early on to determine what the next steps are, but certainly it's important that people across the country defend the First Amendment. All
right. Thank you, Attorney Adam Steinbaugh, for being with us.
Thank you, Reverend.
Coming up, Pride Month is wrapping up, but the fight for equality continues for the LGBTQ community. My next guest on where the movement is headed under Trump 2.0.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं, ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है, दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है। अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं, ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है, दिल का हर एक कोना बहुत ही दर्द भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं, तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊं कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा, तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू, मेरी रूह का मकां तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था, वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा, मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत, मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर, साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर, दर्द का असर।